Where you at with this, man? I want to know if it's a hold-in or what is it?
It's a hold-in.
Is it a hold-in. Is it a distraction? I've never thought it was.
It's not a distraction.
Well, Steiny was like, that's not good. That's my
I'll tell you what's a distraction is not having a backup running back because he's hurt with a broken forearm.
That's real talk.
Your number one or number two wide receiver going out with a PCL injury for the year.
Yep.
What else is a distraction? Bosa's got ACL tendonitis. So I don't think that anything's happening with McCaffrey.
He's trying to get some new bread.
Yeah, good luck with that, buddy.
Right.
I think McCaffrey can get a new contract. Nick Bosa, I don't see that happening.
Well, then there's an iceberg right in front of the Niners FO to get that done if he plays his card. And I know his brother's been in the league, Pops. So I'm just saying they know what time it is, man. And we'll see how this transpires. But I don't expect any of those two to play in the next 2 preseason games. And, Evan, that's how close we are from real football. But now this offseason or preseason for me with the Niners has taken a turn. So when do we find, who's the Pablo Torre of the Niners? Where's Grant at to tell us it's actually, we heard from the horse's mouth, McCaffrey wants new bread before he gets back on the field?
Well, I don't think he'll ever come out and say, I need a new contract. I think he did this quietly a couple summers ago. It just got done earlier.
It went smooth earlier.
It was after 2023.
12:01 a.m. Boop, here it is.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If 2 seasons ago, on the heels of a Offensive Player of the Year campaign, one of the most efficient seasons by a running back we've seen in San Francisco 49ers history, Christian McCaffrey gets his contract in the middle of the summer. Just not even a question. Trent also got paid that offseason too. Trent gets his restructured, because he doesn't have guaranteed money.
Okay.
Why would Trent Williams get his restructured earlier this year and not Christian McCaffrey?
I live in no world where the answer to that question, my friend, would be no. There's just not. And again, you could give me 30 all day, however old Christian McCaffrey is. I mean, man, he looked 21 in regard to being able to be an Iron Man with all those carries last year. And again, I guess the Niners, they're at the crap table, and you got to roll the dice, and hopefully you get 15, 14 games from McCaffrey. But, Evan, in no world do I believe he's not going to get new money before week 1, that ball's kicked off. Where they at?
They're in Australia.
Yeah, help me out. Yeah.
They're in Melbourne.
Down under.
Yeah, taking the Rams. And by the way, I do think McCaffrey will be in Australia. I don't think this is going to extend into the beginning of the NFL season, if it is indeed a hold-in, which it appears to be. But McCaffrey had 1,500 yards, 21 total touchdowns in 2023. He gets a 2-year extension, gets paid right off rip that summer. Last season, he played one more game, got nearly 80 more touches than he did 2 seasons ago, and he still had 2,100 yards from scrimmage and 17 touchdowns. What is the difference? The difference is age.
Yeah.
That's what's preventing the Niners, I think, from just saying, no problem, here you go. I believe last time it was a 2 for $38 million extension, somewhere in that range. This time, I think they are reluctant because they see the writing on the wall for this position at that age. And last year may be the best we will see of Christian McCaffrey for the remainder of his career.
But what about expectations for the team?
But that's why I like Trent Williams. I think they are looking at it and saying, we think you could play another 2 productive years. I'm not sure you can say that about CMC.
But you can say that, but if they believe that, then we're going to get an announcement here soon in the next coming days or weeks that they've taken care of them. And at this juncture, is your running back stable, really in a position for you to say, you know what, McCaffrey, we're not worried about this year. We lightweight a little bit, but next year we're definitely up off you. I don't think they can. And that's why I think advantage, I'm going tennis, advantage McCaffrey.
Oh, by the way, one running back update for the Niners. I believe it was Ian Rappaport of NFL Network reporting that Khalil Herbert, who we saw a lot in preseason for the Niners, is being released. So one less running back in the room for the Niners. You know, just kind of a guy that they had picked up and more of a plug-and-play player.
I always thought about, and maybe you know, from friends, I've had friends in pro sports where they get cut. Like, what do you go do? Do you go to the house and play Madden? You call your agent, call mom's, like, man, it ain't going to happen here. Or just get back in the game like dating, and I got to latch on to another team.
Well, you probably try and make another team, and if you don't make the final cut, you try and stay on the practice squad. And If not, maybe you look around and try and find another league, keep yourself right. Hopefully a team calls. Yeah. That's my guess. But it's
definitely
cutthroat.
Staying, yeah, no doubt about it.
It's cutthroat.
And that's why I have do you have a problem with what McCaffrey's trying to do if it is a hold in? I have none.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey Sports Station, always live in the free Odyssey app and now broadcasting from the Laughing Monk Studios. Evan Giddings in for Matt Steinmetz alongside Daryl the Guru Johnson. And what you're talking about is this. This is what Mike Florio suggested some might think about what CMC is currently doing. He has not practiced since Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson got paid.
Sometimes when you try to understand things happening in the NFL, you need to look at the timeline. For example, Falcons running back Bijan Robinson gets a big contract. A couple of days later, Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs gets a big contract. A couple of days later, 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey starts missing practice due to tightness. He's now missed a week of practice, and some are wondering whether or not his tightness, whether his absence from practice relates to a desire to get an adjustment to his contract, given what Robinson and Gibbs are being paid. McCaffrey's now 30. He's due to make $12.5 million this year. None of it is guaranteed. He's got one last bite at the apple, and now is the time to take it. And now is the time to protect himself while he lays the foundation to get that sweetener. He doesn't need the preseason. He doesn't need the extra reps. He is ready to go. He's always ready to go. But he may be ready to sit until he gets that contract. Some believe that it's going to happen. Either way, we'll see if the 49ers pay him one last time before Christian McCaffrey's career runs out.
And it sounds like you not only believe it's going to happen, but you would pay him one last time.
And I wonder, Evan, if we could just take the temperature, even Posse could share with us his thoughts. How many people just here at the station, and we'll get the guys, Willard and Dibbs, when they come in later, but how many people would look at this like, oh, we're not going to do it? I think the Niners are backed up in a corner because of the poor drafting or bad luck in regard to this position. How you so just rely on him so much to his total output usage rate last year. Oh, my God, Evan, I feel like 2 years is incoming.
Well, I know that McCaffrey was healthy last season. That was a big reason why their offense could stay afloat. But we give a lot of credit to Kyle Shanahan, right? Is Kyle Shanahan more dependent on CMC than he is his quarterback? Because
that's interesting.
Well, it's like he didn't have Brock Purdy for 8 games last year. They won 5 of them.
But who did he go to without Brock?
Mac Jones.
No, but who did Mac Jones rely on? McCaffrey.
Yeah, McCaffrey.
To make him filling in that much easier and made it work. Like, without McCaffrey, all hell breaks loose. That 12 might be 9. That's how I look at it.
I mean, and I guess that's where I would look at the head coach and just say, like, okay, if you don't have him, whether it's because he's holding in, holding out, or whatever, or he gets hurt at some point this year, don't you have to be able to figure that out? I know you can't replace a guy like CMC, but last year they were able to replace a quarterback.
But tell me if I'm doing too much.
The most important position in sports.
How did Steve Kerr do, or the Warriors trying to, and I'm being real here, replace Curry? It was one of those like, yeah, we can draw all we want. We can get out the lead. It ain't happening. We're hurting, and we're done because we're missing him. I feel like that's lightweight the case with McCaffrey in this offense.
And you could be right. But I think if you pay him and give him multiple years, if you just give him what he wants again, to me, you are admitting that McCaffrey is Curry. Like he could be, but that means that he is more important in a way. He's not making as much money.
Yeah. But
Kyle Shanahan, is he just as dependent on McCaffrey as he is his quarterbacks? He might be more. And I think that's crazy to think about, especially nowadays with how much the quarterback has to do with how replaceable around the league some running backs have been. Christian McCaffrey is the most valuable player on the 49ers to Kyle Shanahan.
Evan, I guess regardless of the answer, and I'm about to give it to you, and you pretty much know what it is, I don't think that's a bad thing. We're talking about the modern-day Marshall Faulk. McCaffrey, he's already made his imprint on what he is, and last year was just impressive because I think there was a lot of doubt. So to me, Evan, what if my answer is yes? How bad do you think that's crippling to the team? I don't.
Well, it's not that it's crippling to the team, but it's what separates them from other offenses. It's what separates them from the top two teams in their division.
Well, let's put it right on the table. Brought to you by Echo Pest Control, real quick.
Yeah.
Somebody, oh, you're interrupting Evan. If you're a defensive coordinator, McDonald in Seattle, you're playing the Niners. Let's be honest. Who you more worried about, Purdy or McCaffrey? I'll sit back as I listen to the answer.
It's probably CMC on last year's team.
And that ain't even a shot at Brock.
But this year, you should have a better receiving core. You have Mike Evans. DeJon Stribling looks like he could be a dude.
And I love him. He's a rookie.
Deebo Samuel, if he's your 3, you might be in a good place.
You let go of him a couple years ago, but okay.
So there should be less pressure on the running back position this season when last year you were throwing to Kendrick Bourne and Demarcus Robinson. I mean, that's the way that I'm looking at this. Is the only way the Niners can take a step offensively to a point where they could actually score a touchdown against the Seahawks, something they didn't do 2 out of the last 3 weeks of the season. You have to have a better aerial attack. And I think that's what they tried to identify this offseason.
That's interesting.
And maybe that does take pressure off the running game. The that takes pressure off of McCaffrey. Maybe that means he is less important. Not that he, again, is not a great player, but if the Niners are as reliant on Christian McCaffrey this upcoming season as they were last year, I think you are in for trouble.
And I'm signing my John Hancock on that. Like, he was their leading receiver. Just think about that. In no world can that happen to me in regard to his usage. But as far as the Niners figuring out Seattle, it starts with, obviously Brock, but McCaffrey's a big part of that, man, just as that threat. And I just don't see right now with where they're at health-wise as well, you could say, you know what, I can envision a scenario to where we can move on and still be productive and scare defenses without McCaffrey.
Do you think that Kyle Shanahan would rather have, if you gave the choice, Brock Purdy or Christian McCaffrey, you can have one of those guys, healthy and upright. Which would it be?
I love it. I really do. And I'm being so real. And it might come off as fake. And the only reason it might come off as fake is the reason my answer is McCaffrey is because I saw what one Mac Jones did with Kyle. I don't think in the running back, I know in the running back stable, Black included, they don't have Mac Jones to keep it afloat, if you catch my drift.
See, I think it is the quarterback. I think he'd rather have Brock Purdy. But the fact that we're even having a conversation about it is kind of crazy.
But what about the Mac Jones element? You ain't giving me that. To where if you didn't have Brock, you would miss him, but you got somebody serviceable that showed you can win games and run this offense. You don't have that in the running back. You don't have a Mac Jones after McCaffrey. I don't believe.
No, that's true. But I'm just look at let's say Seattle. Okay, who was their running back last season?
He's gone, yeah.
He was the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah.
They just moved on from Kenneth Walker. The Rams. They got kind of a stable of guys, but Sean McVay would never think about having Kyron Williams on the field as opposed to Matthew Stafford. And Kyle Shanahan, you're right. His offense is very much CMC-dependent and has been since the moment he stepped onto this team via trade back in 22. But it is always about the quarterback, except in San Francisco. That's what's hitting me in the face, and that's why I wonder if the Niners still feel that way, because otherwise, I think they might have already paid Christian. I think might have already given McCaffrey the money because they did it with Trent. They did this last time. Maybe this is the year where the Niners, I'm not going to say make them work for it, but if we're getting towards September and Christian McCaffrey doesn't have a new deal, that's absolutely going to be a storyline.
No doubt, and it's one that you don't want, right? Because I don't want to use the word or the term giving up, but if the Niners are going to do anything and duplicate getting back to the playoffs and winning 12 games or more, my gosh, there's no scenario any football pundit could tell me is going to work without McCaffrey not being a part of it for the Niners. And to me, that's all the leverage in the world. And I get, Evan, there's been some misses, and maybe they're too codependent on him. I get that, but this is what it is right now, is your reality. And let's just say, who's to say, and I understand the odds might not be, they may be stacked against me on this take. If he gives you another 17, 15 games played, and then gives you next year the same, it was totally the right decision.
See, it's interesting. So last year is one of Kyle's, if not his, best.
I mean, man, hold my beer. Yes.
The finest hour for Shanahan. Why isn't that also applied to Brock Purdy? Is it just because he missed games? When he was out there, he was pretty efficient. I know he turned the ball over a lot, but he threw 20 touchdowns in 9 games. He was still hovering at a pretty good completion percentage. The team went 7-2. So if Brock Purdy finally has some weapons, which he did not last year, he's got maybe a healthier, still a question mark at offensive line. The defense is supposed to be better.
Especially a guard, yeah.
Why would they still be as CMC dependent as they were last year?
Because he's that good. Would you like, if you're a teacher, like, come on, I need more than that. Because he's a game changer.
Well, he's a Hall of Fame talent. There's no doubt about it.
You can get me on yards per carry last year, still a mystery. We don't know. But, Evan, if you don't have McCaffrey, I don't care. I'm not dissing Brock Purdy. It takes away from Brock being the best version of himself.
Well, but that's why I think that this year Brock Purdy has to establish that he's more valuable as a player than the running back.
That's interesting. And you're saying now why they went and got new weaponry and even drafted Stribling is because they know we got to be more dynamic on the outside.
Yeah, and you hope that someone like Evans can stay upright and Kittle returns and looks like his former self. There's a lot of things that depend on health, but if Brock Purdy has serviceable weapons around him, I don't understand why he can't win football games if McCaffrey has to miss a few, which based on his track record, he probably will. If this was the same cast as 24, I think it's a different story. They also all drop like flies. Right. But Brock Purdy has a much better situation 2 years from then, and I'm talking about now, to the point where I do feel like going into his 5th year with Kyle Shanahan, 4th as a starter, he's got to establish that he is the most valuable player unequivocally on this football team.
I love that. And I caught hell, from the guys in here during the, crossover. When I use what you're saying, I termed it as, can he take his game up a level or two, Brock? And that was just natural progression. But I guess it came off as if I was saying what he had done thus far wasn't sufficient enough. But, Evan, it's time, man. And this is so symbolic of if the Niners are really close to thinking like you're thinking in regard to Brock doing more. But, man, I see Brock doing less if he doesn't have the benefit and luxury of using McCaffrey. And that's not even a dig at him.
Well, he'll have to do more without CMC. I think Christian McCaffrey's going to be out there, and the question is he going to have any guaranteed money next to his name?
He is. Who wants to bet me?
Well, just pay the man.